Welcome to the Richaado Show.
Oh, hello there. Ooh, what's this I've got on my desk? Ooh, what is this? Oh, wow. Look! It's a Disney game! Now, I've neglected to mention this, but I am somewhat of a sucker for most things Disney. And this particular movie...
It's Treasure Planet. No.
It's actually kind of a good film in my opinion.
I'd actually be so bold as to put this Disney-fied reimagining of the timeless Treasure Island story in my top 10 favourite Disney films. So what if they decided to set it in deep space with aliens and cyborgs and cat people and dog people with doctorates and I don't like it, get him away! It also had a decent lineup of actors as well, such as Emma Thompson, David Hyde Pierce and Joseph Gordon-Levitt before he went on to featuring things like the Dark Knight trilogy and Inception. And for its time in 2002, the mix of traditional 2D animation with 3D CGI and digital art was considered groundbreaking, although some people still consider the film's writing and story to be its shortcomings. It's an average film, but I still enjoyed it.
And that brings us very nicely onto this game right here. And this is actually the first time I've ever seen this particular game, and there were other licensed games based on the film other than this one. I only decided on a whim to pick this particular game up at a 5 for £10 deal at my local retro game store that also included the likes of Metal Gear Solid 3. But as far as I've worked out, this is just your standard action-adventure game where you help dapper young lad Jim Hawkins on his way to finding the loot of 1,000 worlds. Sounds simple enough. Right, are we all present and accounted for so I can get this thing underway? Hang on a second, hang on. No, you. Yeah, you at the back. Look at you. Coming in late. Yeah, I saw your ass. Don't think I didn't. Nice of you to turn up. Yeah, go on, sit down. Park it, you chump. Okay, let's get this underway.
When the winds of the Ethereum were calm and peaceful, swooped in out of nowhere.
Okay, I have no words for any of this.
I guess it must be a serious issue with the actual disc that I've bought that's making all the film clips come out like this. Hey, it might just be as well with all the copyright hell that's currently gripping YouTube right now. And so long as the actual game's not like this, then I guess we can't complain too much. Hey, you know what? Maybe this is actually some form of clever force at work. Like it's trying to make a statement. This is some form of really intricate anti-piracy measure, encouraging you to go out and support the people who made this film with all of their might, heart, and purity of soul. Or maybe the disc is actually just fucked. So after starting a new game, we get introduced to the story of this whole adventure through actual cinematics from the real animated film. Or I should say we would be seeing them if they weren't showing all this broken mess. What we should be seeing here is young
Jimbo
accidentally opening a map leading to the fabled Treasure Planet.
You know what this means?
What? What does it mean? What does it mean? Come on, Doc! What does it mean? Okay, we're in the game at last, and immediately I'm calling bullshit here. This guy, who we call Morph, isn't seen in the actual film until at least 25 minutes in, so why is he suddenly here now at the beginning of the game?
It's almost like they've ignored the film altogether. Completely disregarded the source material. I mean, we haven't even started playing yet, and already there's continuity errors popping up. That doesn't bode well, does it?
So the first thing you'll notice when you try controlling Jim for the first time is that it all feels like he's wading through thick mud or custard or something. It's actually kind of hard to describe, but in general the movement feels really dang heavy, making otherwise slim and athletic Jim feel rather fat and cumbersome. One other thing to note is that if you want to move in the opposite direction you're facing, Jim has to first snap to turn around and then thinks, oh okay, I'm facing this way and the player still wants me to move forward, so I guess I should fucking do that! That then sort of has some noticeable effects on the gameplay, as we'll soon find out. These slow and lethargic movement controls are accompanied by a basic jump and double jump action, and the two main attacks at your disposal. The square button throws out a sword slash, and the circle button lets you fire from your laser pistol. I guess that's what it is. These two attacks are primarily used to break open boxes, chests and barrels to find precious doubloons, life pickups, and film clapperboards, because why the hell not have those things in there, eh? Oh, and forget everything else, these clapperboards are...
Just what I was looking for!
Yeah, never mind treasures or precious jewels or anything, he'd rather be stocking up on his collection of random film production equipment. An addendum to the voices used in this whole game, it's one thing we can praise it for, seeing as the original voices of each lead character retain their roles in the game. But the thing is, most of them seem to do a half-assed effort of it all, and I think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is the worst culprit here. I mean, just have a listen to some of his sound bites.
The area is secure, Captain. Now I'll help you take care of those stinking pirates.
Oi, keep it down, lad. There's no need to shout.
Yeah, I got enough treasure for the next level.
What was that now?
Yeah!
Oh god, what's that? What is that? Who is he trying to be like here? Who? Fucking Macho Man Randy Savage?
Because I'm wild!
Yeah!
So anyway, I'm just here roaming about this somewhat bleakly designed world, searching for these collectibles and powering switches with my pistol. I eventually reach this segment where a button is located far away from the ledge I'm on. Obviously it seems that
Jimbo.
can't shoot it with its pistol as it's out of range. So how do I reach it? It's too high for me to jump up and try and slash it, and it's not possible to hit even when I employ my ability to use Morph as a makeshift paraglider to descend safely to the ground. So how? How I make work? So get this, it turns out that these green pedestals you'll find littered around gives you power to your third weapon, which is basically a long-range rifle. And during the time the weapon is active, you press the R1 button to go into first-person view and aim your shot. And that's how you hit that button. Well, that's great, you might think. However, while one of the NPC characters did mention that I had this long-range weapon in my arsenal, he completely neglected to mention how I actually equip and use it. No information on its purpose, no helpful instructions on how to use it, nothing! And of course that led to me running about this area like a headless chicken, trying and failing to reach that damn button because I wasn't told about the thing that could help me pass this section. This is Basic Tutorials 101, okay? There's no problem with you throwing in any sort of text prompt saying which button to use on the controller to do this action, or heck, there's nothing wrong with your actual NPC saying, oh, by the way, to do this thing, you gotta press this button on your controller. Come on, people! It's not exactly like it's going to break the sense of immersion.
Not that there was any sense of immersion in this game to begin with, so...
Oh, and speaking of these NPCs, their main purpose in this game is to offer you a bunch of minigame type scenarios and offer you passage through to the next part of a stage, sometimes in exchange for your collected doubloons. Not only are some of their designs capable of making any passerby start projectile vomiting from the mere sight of them, but their voice acting is some of the most extravagantly differing that they could have possibly came up with, and not necessarily to this game's benefit. At least the main characters retain their actual talented voices from the film, so there's that, I guess. And further on from the minigames they provide, there's a shooting gallery type game, a horrendously basic stealth segment, a top-down shooting gallery, and an incredibly boring catching game where even one wrong catch restarts the whole fucking thing. Basic as all hell, and yet the controls still manage to make these minigames painfully hard to complete. The aiming in the shooting gallery, for instance, is so heavy that it feels like you're trying to move a fucking mountain whenever you try and aim. And the catching minigame has a delay for what seems like no reason at all, so you have to try and plan your moves ahead of time to avoid cocking up. And I think it only makes it worse that some of these minigames are rehashed at different stages of the game but with different skins on. But it's not like it's fooling me in any sort of way though. I can easily see past the different locales and notice the distinct absence of variety.
And I think that is the key thing that this game is severely lacking in. Variety.
As well as the stupidly boring minigames, you'll come to notice that a lot of the elements in Treasure Planet are horribly unvaried and plain, and you'll come to question how one is supposed to be engaged by this apparent train wreck of a game thus far. The level design and basic platforming gameplay, for example, gets tired out relatively quickly. They're spiced up a little bit with the addition of monkey barring segments and a couple of zip lines, but it's really not enough, and the overall task of platforming in this game is made out to be quite the chore. For instance, remember the thing I mentioned when
Jimbo
has to snap and turn around before moving in the opposite direction? This in turn makes the easiest of jumps hard to pull off because it misleads the player into believing he'll move straight away, but of course he doesn't, and yeah, I fell. Yeah, great, fucking fantastic! And on top of the fiddly platforming, there are also enemies to make this adventure all the more treacherous. Hey, I'm all up for beating some baddies. Come on then, come on, yeah, I'm ready for all of you. I'm running for you especially, yeah, junkies Joe Joyce.
You junkies bastards, yeah.
Oh no, he's coming for me with his whirling attack. Oh, what am I going to do? Oh god, oh no, oh no! Anticlimax. What is with these enemies? All of them, they die! in one hit! Oh, but of course some of them are immune to either your sword swings or your pistol, but that's hardly a varied selection of immunities now, is it? And oh god, these things. I have no fucking clue what they are, and yet they seem to be unkillable. Fuck this! Fuck it! Oh, and have I mentioned the camera yet? The view from it is fine of course, but then you try and rotate it and the speed is almost glacial, and that's on top of the camera colliding with platforms in the game world, which makes everything wholly frustrating. And it is not very often that I end up criticizing the music in a game. I will try my best to find the positives in any game soundtrack, and as for this one, I will give the composers credit for keeping the swashbuckling nature of the adventure in mind when writing this music. But then I noticed that not every track is exactly befitting to the general mood of the situation you're in, such as in these boss fights, and that almost every single one of the songs in this game follows pretty much exactly the same rhythm. Variety, virtually none. Oh, and another note about these boss fights, there's only 2 of them. Yeah, 2. Variety, virtually none. Gameplay variety, virtually none. Enemy variety, virtually none. Minigame variety, virtually none! Do you see what I'm getting at here?
Variety!
This game has almost none of it.
Well, actually I tell a lie here, because it turns out there's a second gameplay style on offer in this game.
In each of the 4 worlds,
By the way, 4 is a pathetic number of worlds to have.
each one has its own race stage, inspired from the dangerous solo surfing pastime that
Jimbo.
likes to do when he's bunking off. If I were to compare these levels to another game, I'd say they closely resemble Wipeout, only nowhere near as exciting. You basically fly around a course collecting the same items as in the platforming levels and avoiding obstacles that gradually damage you and your craft. Finish 6 laps and you complete the level, and every so often you'll be led through different routes and paths in the course to erase the monotony a little, because the design of each course and its presentation are still really quite underwhelming. Plus the game does that really annoying thing of not giving you any sort of tutorial or any rundown of your controls before you set off. And that led me to so much anger and rage when I encountered these ramps on the course. Given that they had flashing arrows painted on them akin to a boost pad like in almost every other kart racer ever, I assumed that they would boost me up and launch me across the gap. But no. None of what I just described happened. Instead, you have to physically jump across the gap yourself, which of course I didn't know that because there were no hints given to me in the game! I would have reckoned by 2002 we would be rid of the times when we resorted to looking through game manuals to get information on how to play a game, but apparently that's not the case here. It's like we're still all living as Neanderthals in the Stone Age according to the makers of this game. In fact, I find myself doing that an awful lot to try and understand things like the aforementioned long-range rifle, the racing controls, and even the health system. Seriously, it's so nonsensically designed. Picking up these mini-lives, yes, that is what they genuinely call them, picking up these fills up this red gauge, and when it's full, then it gives you a chunk of health back. But then if you pick up a larger one of these, it gives you back your health anyway. Ow, my brain, it hurts.
Okay, at this point, I'm really struggling to maintain my sanity talking about the mound of things wrong with this game. But there were simply some things that went so beyond any sense of game logic that I just have to bring them up now.
For one thing, I find it really weird that John Silver appears as an NPC that gives you a minigame to complete for these tokens that you'll need to unlock later levels, and he also appears as one of the game's bosses. Well, yes, okay, it makes sense when you relate it back to the film. I mean, Silver does sort of take Jim under his wing and plays a fatherly figure to him, even though he's ultimately out for himself and the treasure only. I just find it only slightly weird that he's an NPC and a boss in the same game. Next up, and I hope to God that this issue is only occurring because of the problems that might be affecting the disc I own, but I often saw that when the film clips were supposed to be playing, when one of them stops, which is usually meant to signal to the game, okay, chop chop, it's time to load the next portion of the game, it in fact loaded the next film clip and just carries on. It doesn't go back to any gameplay or menus, it continuously loads the film clips and plays through all of them if you just leave it alone. And that genuinely fooled me the first time I saw it happen. I thought it was supposed to show multiple clips in sequence before the next portion of the game, which is fair enough I guess. But when it carried on playing and played the closing scene from the film, and I could tell which scenes were playing from having seen the film so many times, mind you, I knew then that something was wrong. And as I say, I hope this issue only happens because there's a problem with my particular copy, because if not, then God help anyone else who played this damned mess. Then we get to pretty much the biggest game-breaking problem I found. This game has itself a life system as well as health, which in turn means it's possible to achieve a game over. And that's fine of course, because then what would normally happen is you'd be transported back to the beginning of a level that's completely reset with all the collectibles there to grab again. In Treasure Planet though, you still get put back at the level starting point, but you'll notice that all the main collectibles you have already picked up before you died don't get respawned and remain in your tally. The collectibles don't get put back when you game over. If that is not the single most fucking game-only thing to ever exist, then please tell me! It completely destroys the sense of challenge when you can lose all of your lives and not have to worry about any drastic consequences. I mean, if you want to have your game over state to be something to try and avoid because of the risk of everything being put back for you to try and collect again, but when that doesn't happen, yeah, you know what, screw this, I'm done.
Can you tell this game really frustrated me? I mean, I picked this thing up expecting to get at least something out of it, considering it was watched over by Disney Interactive, the same people who put out such great stuff in the past, like Disney's Hercules or Toy Story 2 Buzz Lightyear to the Rescue. But oh no, quite the contrary.
I didn't realise that it was possible to produce something this underwhelming and unengaging while still making the overall experience so frustrating. Bad level design, bad enemies, bad minigames, bad presentation, it's just bad! Way worse than what I was expecting, and that coupled with the pedigree of the company behind the game just left the sourest taste in my mouth.
This game is like an unpleasant, festering mound of dog feces on Disney Interactive's nice clean living room carpet, and for putting me through all of that, Treasure Planet is heading for the trash list. I will stress, however, that this isn't the only version of this game. There is a PS2 version of this as well, that I must say certainly looks better than the PS1 version. Whether it actually is, I don't know for myself, but maybe you can tell me in your comments, as well as all your general feedback, as per usual. And that's where we'll end it. All I can say now is stay you, and stay awesome, do yourself a favour and stay away from this game, and I will see you all later on.
Because I'm wild!
Yeah!
Hey, thanks again for watching, you lovely people. Be sure to give a like and a favourite if you enjoyed the video, and if you really liked it and you want more, consider subscribing to The Richaado Show, so you can be among the first to see new content when it's ready. Thanks again, and I will see you guys later on.